bus driver definitely has ultimate authority in the bus, and it's their responsibility to take action and to make sure that passengers have a safe bus ride. If I was in that situation and I found that I was too intimidated, or what I said was not going to solve the problem, I would definitely report the issue that happened later on either to a higher head, someone above me, and so that in the future this kind of problem can be resolved and other people don't fall through that same discrimination.
I think the responsibility is shared. I don't blame any one person, right? I think it is, a slippery slope when you start, pointing fingers and blaming people. We're all partly responsible. But I do know for a fact that there's a victim, and the victim is this young lady, right? Who was going home, who got on the bus, paid her fare, was expecting to reach to her destination without being insulted.
You're not even supposed to be in public when you're drunk. Like, I don't know how you let her on the bus.
You're not allowed to be publicly.
That's iffy.
Wouldn't they prefer you being on a bus than like driving a car?
No, because you can cause havoc
you take a cab.
Yeah.
You have to call a cab. Get a friend and drive. You're not allowed to be publicly drunk.
So what should the driver have done in that situation?
You shouldn't have let her on.
But if he did let her on and she like did all that,
Then you should have stopped, just like you said. Because if there was a fight on the bus, then you would stop the bus and call the police. If you're playing music on the bus, he'll get on the microphone and he'll tell you turn the music off. I've seen it happen before, so for her to do that and cause such a scene and then nothing happened, that's
I have another question. Why do you think the exception was made in this case? Do you think it's just a coincidence that the bus driver didn't respond?
No, he agreed with her.
So you think in this case, that means you would be pointing fingers at the My Way system for picking wrong bus drivers. So basically racist bus drivers. Do you think that's the case?
Maybe. Well, they're not gonna interview you based on your political views.
Yeah.
Or what you think about other people. They're not gonna ask you that.
So you think the recruiting process of the bus drivers there's fault in it?
So it should be fixed. Yeah, sure.
Should be
I think
fixed.
it's more has to do with the training. They're able to give like the bus drivers or the general staff there like sort of anti-oppressive training in order for them to be able to know how to react to situations like these.
Yeah.
In the sense that they face any issues of like racism or any racial slurs or political issues and whatnot that may offend somebody, then I think it's just the lack of training.
Like there was a lot of bystanders that like people stood by and watched what happened. It just makes me think, would it have happened the same way if it was anybody else or if it was somebody like a member of a different community?
What do you think of the bystander effect? How it plays out?
Well, I personally believe that the bystanders, because of the pressures or because of the languages that the lady was using, perhaps the bystanders were a little bit more intimidated as to what to do since she was intoxicated.
Honestly, I believe the reason why people didn't stand up, people didn't say anything against this whole segregation of racism, was because people were just too scared to get involved. People are scared of being categorized as just like them.
When I applied for a job, it was a telemarketing company, so my appearance really shouldn't matter in this context, right? The interviewer, just as he saw me come in, and he had a friend of his sitting beside him, somebody who just came to visit him. He just gave her the sheet of questions, like just ask her questions, and by whatever you gauge, just let me know and whatever. And he walked out. And then the friend was asking me questions, and like he asked me questions, I answered them. The interviewer came in back, and he's like, "Oh, so how did she do?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's pretty good. I think she'll be a good person. She only has like, let's say, a problem with an accent thing. I had a really thick accent at that time, so that's understandable." Apparently that company would be training people on how to speak better. So like that shouldn't have been a problem for them. However, the interviewer who had walked out, he was like, "But there's one more problem, I think, your appearance." And I'm like, I looked at myself, I'm wearing, formal clothes, and I'm like, why are you talking, what's wrong with my appearance? And I was wearing a hijab at that time. it wasn't really a hijab, like it was just a headscarf. It had become my habit, like since my high school in Kenya, I used to wear a headscarf, and like I would wear it with anything. So he's like, you know, you don't necessarily have to wear this to work. I was in shock at that point, and I'm like, wait, you interviewing me for a telemarketer position, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so is it like a video telemarketer? Is it like a computer Skype one or something? Yeah. He's like, no, it's just on the phone. Like early this year, I was on a bus, and this lady, I don't know why she was frustrated. I understand, you know, she was trying to catch a bus. She missed a previous bus or something. She gets on the bus, and I was sitting in the front seat, and there was another empty seat on my other side. So she comes and she's complaining about the world, and you know, it's like Canada is a beautiful country. You know, everybody is just everybody is welcome here. We just bring whoever they want, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong in our behavior. Nothing wrong in our, you know, like we're friendly to them. But how do they treat us? They want to bring their own rules. They want to bring their own ideas. I don't think this is what Canada is. And then I pulled the chain thing at the wholesale club stop. And at that point she goes, yeah, of course. Everything is cheap and everything is free in Canada. All these bloody immigrants, you know, they're all like looking for free stuff, and this is what Canada is giving them.
My brown friends wouldn't get along with my white friends. White friends wouldn't get along with brown friends because of the color of the skin and because of where they're from. There were a couple people in my high school who would pretend that they weren't Muslim just so they didn't have to be categorized as a brown person, okay, or be so they could hang out with the white people. That's how bad it was in my school. People would go to as far as saying, I don't look Muslim, like the stereotypical Muslim. So when I told people I was Muslim, it was just a shocker. The first thing that comes to their mind is like, your skin color isn't brown. What does that even mean? Now our race, our religion is actually categorized into a skin color? That's so wrong. You don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, your skin is brown, like you should be Muslim.
People feel that this stuff, like Islamophobia, discrimination against Muslims, is something that's been normalized. Like you hear it in the media, you see it when people talk around, you see it with the jokes that are made. I hate it when people try to say that it's sort of your turn, or you know, they justify it a little bit. It'd be like, yeah, oh, you know, 9/11 happened with that, so or anything other than that happened in the world. So, you know, like your people, they're sort of responsible. So they'll understand and they'll normalize it like that, and that's wrong, and that shouldn't happen.
It has become so normal that anyone can say that Islam is terrorism. And it bothers me so much. Why? Because it comes out of university professors and people who are completely educated, and they have certificates, and they graduated from high institutions, and they still say this about Islam. So that's not education.
I feel like this type of racism is very direct, whereas like in my opinion, like we're facing racism like in everyday life. Like I live very close to a church and a mosque. When we go to like Jummah prayers and we're getting out of the mosque, like you'll see like how people are gonna honk at you when they could just go on the other side and like cross the street or go by car, but you'll see a lot of like cars, they'll honk at you until even you're far away, and they'll still be honking at you. Whereas like on church, when I see like on Sundays, people will wait patiently, they'll stop, the cars will stop, and people will go by, cross the streets. It's very quiet.
This stuff should be documented. If the media isn't going to pick it up, then we should document it, and it should be displayed, and eventually someone will pick it up, and it will be talked about. If not now, then in the future.
The best way to tackle racism is raising awareness. Raising awareness may seem ineffective, but by contacting the appropriate authorities and setting in place appropriate programs, you give people the tools, you give people the strategies, you teach them how to react appropriately to the situation. And then in this case, it's a win-win situation. Wherever the racism occurs in whatever organization it's occurring, they don't suffer any sort of PR damage. And at the same person, the plaintiff in this case who has suffered racism will not feel humiliated. So the key way of tackling racism is raising awareness and developing effective strategies to combat it, and to react appropriately, effectively, and in a timely manner. You can start first with simple things such as campaigning events. You can come up with certain standard operating procedures. If a plaintiff comes to you, if a customer comes to you telling you he feels threatened in a way, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to react to it appropriately? And how are you supposed to stop it from escalating, if you can even stop it from escalating? In that way, everyone will feel appreciated, no one's going to feel undermined, and no one will be left with a feeling that racism is okay. And that's the problem. It's become too lax, it's become too accepted, it's become way too casual.
I think the biggest challenge is what could I do, right? I know raising awareness is one thing, but I think calling people to action is something that's much more effective. So, getting people, to write to the director of Mississauga Transit, right? Who is, responsible for the transit system. Getting people to write to the mayor of Mississauga, right? People writing to their councillors, city councillors. Running a campaign, right? Educating, the rest of the public that this sort of discrimination in public places, such as a bus, is unacceptable. I think it's also an opportunity for us to educate, like I said, not just members of the public, but educate other people, in our families. Maybe this could be an opportunity for us to talk about, hey, if there was an incident of verbal abuse, what do you do next, right? How many people know what to do, how to react, right? During the moment, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
But maybe providing support for people and educating people, whether it's in our mosques, our churches, our temples, or in our universities and high schools, just educating people. It's hey, listen, if you find yourself in a place of aggression, how do you best deal with it, right? And I think if people are educated that way, they'll be able to identify other points of aggression or other places, other spaces where people have been aggressed, and they will be familiar with what happens, and they will be able to provide advice or at least do what is expected of them.
I have a problem with Muslims and minorities in general being in such a submissive state when this happens to them, that it's sort of let's be the better person in this situation and let's sort of surpass this and show them that we can be better at this. But it's not a matter of that. You have laws in place to protect you. The justice system is there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody follows the system. So it's your responsibility to take that system and to follow through with it.
These kind of remarks or these kind of people will always exist. And I'm pretty sure the entire population of Canada, all about 33 million of them, know that there are racist people out there. But do I believe that they're taking drastic measures to end racism? Absolutely not. So I think as much awareness as you do try to raise to the political sphere, whether you take it to whatever form of political press or whatever form of press, people already do know about it. It is already within the eyes of the public, but now it's up to the public to actually make a change, or up to legislation to actually implement new administrative policies and protocols. But I don't think that they actually care about it to the extent where they actually want to change.